Today I want to share something that is a little bit, it's a Mother's Day message. And I thought of this right away when I began a few weeks ago. I was just thinking, what will I share this morning? And I was mindful of a motherhood story, but looks a little different. It's a very familiar story that I'm going to share with you. But often we just see one part of the story and don't see maybe some of the hidden people, that they aren't that hidden, but we don't notice them as much. But I want to talk about a motherhood story of a collaboration of women in the life of Moses. Moses was called by God to be a great leader, but he was born at a very precarious time. And he was born at a time when an edict had gone out by a very diabolical leader who didn't know about the ways of God. And now there's a big group of Hebrew people living in Egypt. And there is a very insecure leader that is threatened by how this group is growing and growing and growing. And so he makes an edict that every midwife has to kill a baby boy if he's born. Because of his insecurity, he wanted to annihilate any potential person that could carry on a legacy and be a threat to him and to his kingdom. And can I just say this? We don't live in a time like that, but we live in a world that is not everyone's friendly. There's a lot of hostility in this world. And it may not be that we are under that kind of an evil dictatorship, but we have an enemy who wants to kill, steal, and destroy the life and the future of your children and your children's children. And so we need to be rise up people that actually take a hold of our calling and our place for such a time as this to make a difference. And the reason I love this story so much when it comes to motherhood is that only one of the women in this story was actually a biological mother to Moses. But there were women that surrounded him that came together collaboratively to take part in the future of a young leader that God had called to save a nation. And I pray that we would see how we can fit into this story. So as I read some of these scriptures out of Exodus chapter 1 and chapter 2, that you would just listen for what happened because of a collaboration, a sisterhood, if you will, of women who rose up in a very dark and diabolical time. And it starts in Exodus chapter 1. Here it is in verse 15. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, if you have a baby girl, you may want to call her Puah one day, because she's a great woman. I don't know, it might work. Shiphrah too, that's a good one. But when you're helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on the delivery stool, if you see the baby is a boy, kill him. Those words are so stark, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. The midwives, however, feared God. Feared who? God. And did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. And then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live? And the midwives answered Pharaoh so bravely, Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive. Side note, I prayed that over my life when I was pregnant and believed that I would be like a Hebrew woman and give birth really, really quickly. And I think God answered my prayers. So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, feared who? God. He gave them families of their own. These two women, Shiphrah and Puah, they mothered through advocating for the young boys. I don't know how many other boys they were involved in saving the lives of and refused to murder, but these women are something else. These are rise up women that stepped into this story. They were probably from very low socioeconomic standpoint. They didn't have everything going for them, but here they were delivering babies. And they chose, regardless of how powerless they might have been, to defy an edict that was against God's plan and God's purpose. And that is what I think the heart of motherhood is someone who is willing to see life prevail. That she will nurture and she will be a part of bringing life, not taking life. And I think these women are such gorgeous examples of who we can be. And as women, because, I see them so much in that motherhood spirit of seeing this and not letting those boys die. But I also think of the strength of all of us as a people, men and women alike, of being a part of writing a story with God that is all about the future and doing what is right for the future of our lives and also for this nation. Let our voices be strong and let our hearts be aflame with doing what God has asked us to do. I love that they trusted God and they feared him more than man, even at their own personal risk of their own lives. That is what a heart of a mother looks like. I want to be that kind of a woman. I may have only birthed 3 children, and some of you go, that's a lot. John is one of 11, same mom. After 9 children, she found out 7 years later she was pregnant again, and hello, it's twins. So there's a lot of children in John's family. But, you know, I birthed 3, and I've raised 3 daughters, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But I don't know if Shifra and Pua, oh no, it does say God bless them, and they became mothers. But wherever we are in life, can we be people that stand up and step into this God story to make a difference and be a part of bringing life and advocating for life? And God knows how much we need voices in this land today that will not be afraid of the declarations of an evil system, but rather of God's system, and be a part of writing that story. In Exodus chapter 2, we're introduced to 3 more women. And I love this. Chapter 2, verse 1. Now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance and to see what would happen to him. And then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. And then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. And when the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." This is a powerful story. It's all about a future of God's people. And there is just women that were brave and courageous, that were willing to step in and do what seemed impossible. But with God, all things are possible. I am in awe of the providential hand of God upon the life of the baby boy that God had destined to do these things. And these 3 women all carried a significant mothering role as well. One, obviously, was his mom, Jochebed, who is such a hero in this story. And she birthed this beautiful little boy. And she also, we see here, he had an older sister and an older brother. Aaron was his brother, and Aaron too carried a huge responsibility in leading the children of Israel. And I think about Miriam, his sister, and she was also used mightily of God. What kind of a mom was Jochebed to raise 3 such incredible children? And one of them she birthed and had for a few years, because we know that because of Miriam, who stepped up and said, "Should I find someone who can nurse your baby for you?" And they said, "Yes, please do." Miriam took her little baby brother right back to mom, who then nursed him for, in that culture, it would have been possibly 4 years, even longer. Whew, I'm glad I didn't have to do that for that long, but brings him back. And I think of what she instilled into her son, Moses, in those years. We know that later on he identifies as a Hebrew, not as an Egyptian, even though he was a great leader in Egypt. But he understood when he saw his people, and that's further in the story, and I won't go there, but I think of what she invested into her son, the stories she told, the way that she nurtured him for the very, very short time she had him. Never underestimate what God can do through your life, even in those early years, those important years, those formative years. They are bigger than you know. So don't hold back. Pour everything you know. Tell them stories about the greatness of God. I think about how much was invested into me, how many stories I remember today, and I wonder how young I was when I heard some of them, because some of the stories that I heard about my grandparents and escaping out of a horrific situation, hiding from certain death in a forest and God delivering them. I would hear these stories as a young girl. And when I think about the stories they told me, I always think about how big they made God. And I learned them so young, and they have carried me through my whole life. But so much of Jochebed is how she carried him. I can't even imagine the courage it took for her to take that little papyrus basket and cover it with tar and pitch. I thought about this as I was preparing the message. How many tears would have fallen into that basket as she was preparing it for her son? Was it an easy task? No. But was it a full of faith and trust in God task? Yes. But as she did that and prepared it and then bravely put her son in there, I don't know how many prayers she would have prayed, how many tears would have fallen, but yet with great bravery and courage, put him into the river and put him out there knowing that a river is moving water. That would he be steady? Would he tip over? Along the banks of the Nile, we know there are predators, and there would have been, animals like crocodiles that would have come and could have taken him. But prayer and faith carried that little boy, it prayed over him by his mom, and a great and mighty God that she was in partnership with. What a beautiful story. Only a few years, and yet we know she made such an impact in his life. I want to talk about Miriam, his older sister, for a moment. I want to talk to so many of the young women, and I look at you. This room is filled with young, beautiful women. You matter. And I know this is true. This can apply to the men in this room too, and especially you young men. There is somebody, if you are 14 years old today, there is somebody who's 8 that's looking at you, wants to be seen by you, wants to be nurtured by you. No, you're not their mom, but I think of my Sunday school teachers. I think about some of the people that helped take care of me. My mom did a fantastic job as a mom. She's the best. But she did not do it on her own. So much of who I am today and who we all are because of the others that came alongside. Older sisters. I think about here, I love the heart of Calgary Life Church. It's so stunning. And one of the things you've always invested so deeply into is generations. But can I tell you, you don't have to wait to be ready. Wherever you are today, step up. And realize people are watching you. I was watching you on the front row today as you were worshiping God and just passionately worshiping God. Keep it up. Because there's somebody watching you that thinks, I want to be like her one day. I want to love Jesus. Or I think if you're on the platform, it's a young platform, it's beautiful. How many of you that what you're doing is more than just singing a song. There are people that are watching and say, I want to do that one day. And I'm not naive, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm 69. Yes, I turned 70 this year. It's a bit of a scary number. It's okay, it's fine. But I realized for 40 years I've held a microphone, which I never thought I would do once. I was afraid of a microphone. Women don't preach. But 40 years ago, my husband said, you need to get up there and teach. And I'm like, I'm not teaching. You can't make me. And he looked at me and said, are you okay with disobeying God? And I was mad at him for that, understandably. Like, how manipulative can you get? But I did step on a platform. And then I told him, well, that I did it. I'm never doing it again. And he said, don't be ridiculous. If God has put something in you, then take responsibility and carry it. And I'm grateful for people who believed in me, like my husband, who kicked me out of the boat, as it were, and like, go walk on water. And but I realized that some people have never seen a woman, and I'm just like, well, I guess I'll be one. Is it comfortable for me? Do you still get nervous? All the time, yes. Do I feel that I've got it all and I've got it figured out? Absolutely not. So when you're younger, you think you're too young and too dumb. And then when you're older, you think, well, I'm too old and irrelevant. And I just decided I'm not signing up for any of that. As long as I can serve Jesus in whatever capacity, I'm going to go with it. And I want to encourage you, wherever you are, grandmothers, step up. Don't hide. Step up. Somebody needs your story. Somebody needs to know what you've walked through. Don't shy away from your story and you think, well, it's not all beautiful, especially those stories we need to hear about how God helped you. I am eternally grateful for the truth that my mom told me and my grandma told me, and not all of our history in our family is beautiful, but they didn't lie about it. What they did, again, they made God great. But often we hide. We think we're gonna do something wrong by just telling them the truth about how God met us in our hardest day. Talk about it. Didn't put that in my notes, but I want to encourage you. You matter. Your story matters. Your life matters. So look at somebody who's younger than you that needs to hear what you have to say. And then the beautiful daughter in this story, Pharaoh's daughter, a mother by adoption. You know, think about Osama bin Laden. That could have been her father. Evil, wanting to annihilate all the boys because he is a threatened leader. And I'm telling you, women in that culture did not have a voice. They were pretty abandoned or pretty left. They were more of a commodity rather than powerful. She was not powerful. She had prestige, but not power. But I think of what she did that was so powerful, is where she heard the cry of a baby, and she knew it was a Hebrew boy that was supposed to be killed according to her father's edict. And she said, I'm going to bring him home with me, and I will raise him as my own. I want to honor the women and the men in this room that are adoptive parents, that have opened up their heart to bring a child into your life and to love them and to nurture them. Has it always been easy? I'm sure it hasn't. But I celebrate you. I celebrate parents in here, moms that are stepmoms, that maybe you are raising children that you didn't birth, but they have come into your life. Can I honor you and thank you for what you are doing? And you are enough. You are not less than. You are enough. And also for those of you that foster children, I mean, some of my greatest heroes are foster parents that will take in a child that is in a desperate place, and you open up your heart in your home, and you allow them to come and live with you, and you can nurture them and grow them. That is the essence of, that is the spirit of motherhood, which is absolutely beautiful. So I honor you. Some of these roles have been very challenging, but you've stepped into them and you carry them. So just a few thoughts about what does the spirit and the heart of a mother look like. And maybe the first one I want is the loudest to me. She is a nurturer, which means she cares for. She gives her very best for the development and well-being of those that she loves and cares for. Fiercely, fiercely dedicated to those she is responsible for. And she will lead them, she will fight for them and for their future by investing her heart passionately. That's what nurture looks like. Taking care of. Weeding, like weeding the garden, watering it, fertilizing, whatever it takes for their well-being. We do it with plants, but how much more we can do it with the children and the people in our lives. And here's another one that I think just screams at me. This woman is brave and courageous. To me, the loudest characteristics of the women I just read from the Exodus story, they are brave. And I am of brave women. If I think about the women that have raised me, and I would say one of the loudest parts of their life is they're brave. They didn't just cower and run away from hard things. My mom went through 17 years where my dad, a pastor's son, walked away from God. And I watched my mom love him, build their life and their friendship, even though her heart was broken that they were not building together on biblical principles, but she treated him like a man of God. She honored him as a man of God. And 17 years later, there was a day that my dad said, I can't fight this anymore. Your mom's prayers are too strong. And he came home to Jesus. And for the last 30 years of his life, they together helped build our church and so much of who we are today. But that was the heart of a mother. Brave, kept taking us to church, kept fighting for our future, even if it looked like her heart was broken. But I never watched her. I know that she would weep in times, that it felt like this is never going to happen. But if you were to ask me, what was that? What did that look like? Brave. She was brave. She was courageous. And she stood in hard places and fought for the future in the most beautiful way. And we're all recipients of that as her children and grandchildren. Here's another one. She fears God. You know what? This is one of the greatest elements missing in the world today. But can I say it? In the church, the greater church, the Big C church. We need to fear God, not fear man, fear all of the things that are going on. And this world is crazy. But listen, when you fear God, and you reverence him and his way, you're fine. You're standing on a rock. You're standing on a conviction. You have a future because your fear is not based. We live in so much fear. I mean, the economy and the government and all this stuff. Come on, can we just be people that fear God and know if God's got the future, I'm okay. Can I tell you? We know the end of the story. We know that we're going to be okay. But that only comes when you fear God. If you fear man, you're hooped. But if you fear God, your future is fantastic. So understand that's what it takes. It's not a self-confidence. It's a God confidence. I know in whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that he is able to do. And that's where you have to stand, fear of God. In Proverbs 31, it says, favor is deceitful and beauty is in vain. But a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. And the next one is she trusts God and she loves people. And it's in that order. Many times we think, we're supposed to trust people and love God. No, love God and trust God. And then trust people who are trustworthy. But if your faith is in God, he's going to show you how to build. And not everything is safe to build with. But when there is a reverence and a fear for God, that's why I look at the story in the Bible about Moses. Talk about trust. Talk about abandoned trust unto God. No, her world wasn't safe. Their worlds weren't safe, but God was. And so often we put our trust in people and we get disappointed over and over and over again. People are people. I'm a person. I can let people down. And so often our trust is so misplaced. If we get the right government, everything's going to be okay. Is that trusting God or trusting people? Of course we want good government. We want good leadership. Absolutely. But my faith is not in it. My faith is in God. He carries my future. And then the next one of the most important is she speaks with power. Let your words carry weight. That what comes out of your mouth actually is a prophetic declaration of who the people you're speaking to are. Let your voice carry God's voice. And there's only way that you get that is if you're grounded in the Word of God. You need to know what the Scripture says. You need to hide yourself in truth. You need to build your life upon the Word. And no one can do that work for you. No one. They can't study for you. They can't pray for you. You have to do your own praying, church. We have to do our own studying, church. And together, when we do that, we build one another up. But it's your responsibility to nurture your spirit. And when you do, you will speak with power. Proverbs 31, verse 26 says, she opens her mouth in skillful and godly wisdom. And the teaching of kindness is on her tongue, giving counsel and instruction. Her words are anchored in biblical truth. Her words are prophetic. Her words are kind. She prays. I shared earlier, and I shared it in the first service, so I'm going to talk about it again. Sometimes we have children that lose their ways, or people in our world, maybe a friend, maybe somebody who loses their way, and it feels hopeless, and they lose heart. Your words can make all the difference to have a turnaround in their lives. John often says, teenagers, sometimes they forget who they are. But don't you as a parent forget who they are. And I shared that with one of our children. She's been on a pretty scary journey these last few years. And like I said, she's come home. She's had that coming home to Jesus moment. So it's a turnaround story. It's not one I've talked about often, and I'm careful about what I say, but God is so faithful. But maybe 6 to 8 months ago, I got a phone call from her, and I love her so much. But she's broken my heart, phew. But I love her. And she calls me, and she said, Mom, you need to tell me what you think of me. You need to tell me what I need to change. You need to tell me, what I've done wrong, and just straighten me up. And she wasn't really in a very healthy place, you can tell when she was saying that, but she thought maybe Mom will say something to me that'll scare me out of the stupid place I'm in. And she said, just tell me the truth. Just tell me the truth. And I think she was looking at maybe I would berate her and tell her off. And woof, God knows how many times I've wanted to. But a mom doesn't do that. She carries the future. And so she's on the phone, and I said, okay, you really want the truth? And she said, I do. Just give it to me. I said, you forgot who you are, but I have not. I know who you are. Let me tell you who you are. And I began to just prophetically declare over her, as I have her whole life, who she is, who she belongs to, how magnificent she is, how she's called of God, how she has destiny and purpose written all over her life. And I could hear her just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And I said, I'm your mom. I know who you are. And maybe you have someone in your life that has forgotten who they are. Can I encourage you with that nurturing, mothering heart or fatherly heart to tell the people in your world who they are? Because there is an enemy that is lying to them, that tell them because of what they've done, they don't deserve a future. And they need a voice like yours to say, God's got you, and I've got you, and I am not letting you go. You see, when my children were born, there were scriptures that I put in my heart that I've never let go of. And I've had to declare it louder in recent years than ever before. Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 13 says, all my children will be taught of the Lord and obedient to his will, and great will be their peace and undisturbed composure. And I just put a big fat amen over that. Devil, you messed with the wrong woman. This woman's going to fight for the future. I'm going to declare what God says. I am not giving up. Some of you have given up on yourselves. You feel like you failed as a mom or even as a father. And you think too much damage has been done. Can I tell you? It is never too late. It is never too late. Don't believe it. Believe that God is with you, and God is the God of the impossible. He can redeem and restore to the uttermost. That if maybe your heart is broken in here today as a parent or as a child, that there is a way back. You have to believe it, and I believe it. And if you're in this room today, I want you to embrace the truth of what God sees for you and for those that you love. It is never, ever too late. I just want to say these words over you right now. Proverbs 31, verse 31 in the Passion Translation says, so go ahead and give her the credit that is due. For she has become a radiant woman, and all her loving works of righteousness deserve to be admired at the gates of every city. I applaud you. I celebrate you. Maybe it's been a hard and a holy year for you too. And that's okay. Because we're not living in the past. We're living for the future. And you know who's waiting for you in your future? Jesus. He's already gone before you. He'll meet you there. He's with you today. And maybe some of you today need to set things right. Maybe some of you need to pick up a phone and call someone and just say, I love you. I'm proud of you. Sorry I haven't said that in a long time, but I want you to know I love being your mom. Or maybe you need to call your mom and say, I don't tell you enough how much I love you. And just do the right thing. I believe it takes so little to make such a big difference. You just have to lay down pride, lay down insecurity, lay down fear, and maybe one of the bravest things you can do today is send a text, make a phone call, show up. Do whatever it takes. But don't let another day go without doing whatever you can to carry the heart of a mom, to carry the heart into the future, and believe for great things that God has in store for you. Amen.